Take two. Good evening. My name is Jeremy Holstein, and welcome to the final production in the Post-Meridian Radio Players' Summer of Mystery. The Post-Meridian Radio Players are an audio drama group out of Somerville, Massachusetts, who are trying to recapture the golden age of radio by performing audio dramas in front of a live audience. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that recently, for obvious reasons, but we are hoping to be back live this Halloween for Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is holding auditions this coming Monday. Sign up for an audition slot at our website, pmrp.org. But until then, we are performing our annual Summer Mysteries virtually, one a month, with our August show being an original adaptation of the Baroness Orczy classic, The Fordwych Castle Murder. Please consider donating at the link on the event page or at our webpage, www.pmrp.org. Every little bit helps us to continue bringing you new audio drama. And that's it. So, please, sit back in front of your screen and enjoy as Lady Molly and Mary Grenard try to solve the Fordwych Castle murder.
Da-da-dum. Oh, Jack! You startled me! What are you doing here?
Can't stay away from the family castle, fair Kate. Besides, you'd miss me if I did.
Not on your life.
And why is that?
I knows you too well.
What the devil?
Luna! My poor Luna! I knew it! I knew it!
Joan.
Miss Joan? Is that blood?
She what? Out with it, darling. This is nonsense. I'm going to see what's going on. Oh, dear God.
Jack? Jack, what's going on? Jack? Jack? Jack, what should I do? I'll send for the doctor. And Bruna!
Now, girl, hurry! Bruna's been murdered.
The Post-Meridian Radio Players presents Lady Molly of Scotland Yard by Baroness Orczy, adapted by Jeremy Holstein and Elizabeth Salazar. Tonight's tale, The Fordwych Castle Murder.
From the very first, the public took an unusual interest in the brutal murder at Fordwych Castle. As the days went by, the public fascination was whipped into a frenzy of questions that the police were unable to answer. Surely this was a case that required the feminine tact and intuition of my dear Lady Molly? My lady must have had an inkling that we would soon be called upon, for we travelled down to Fordwych Castle to attend the murder's inquest. The dining room of the castle was crowded to its utmost.
I must say, my lady, this is the most crowded inquest I've ever seen.
Murder does tend to bring out the public's fascination. Now, Mary, keep your ears open for any detail, no matter how small. We will need your notes once the chief asks us to investigate.
Of course, my lady. But are you sure the chief will call upon us?
He will.
How can you be sure?
Because I
You
know
the chief, of course. How could I ever doubt you?
Oh, please, do carry on. No need to stop your gossip just because we've entered the room.
Enough, Henriette. They are guests. Jack, help me to my seat.
Yes, Auntie.
The Baroness d'Albuquerque herself makes a dramatic entrance. I must say, Mary, she does not look well.
Oh, but she's still a grand lady, isn't she? And that must be her niece, Henriette. Oh, but are we sure she is related?
What do you mean?
Well, she is a striking young woman, but there's a rather, how would you say, foreign look about her?
Very Very perceptive, Mary. While both Henriette and her sister Joan were born to the Lady d'Albuquerque's sister, their father was Indian. It was quite the scandal.
Still, it is noble of the Baroness to choose Henriette as her heir.
More a necessity, I'm afraid. The Lady d'Albuquerque is without any children, so as her late sister's eldest child, Henriette stands to inherit.
And what about the other sister, Joan?
Evidently, only one heir was necessary.
Oh, my. When who's the military gentleman behind them?
That must be Captain Jack d'Albuquerque, a cousin, as I understand.
He seems rather distracted. He keeps looking at... Ah, yes, of course.
Joan Mudalia, the other sister and mistress to the murdered woman.
She is a pretty one, isn't she? No wonder the captain is so distracted.
Ah, the coroner is gavelling the inquest. Shall we take our seats? Remember, Mary, thorough notes.
Yes, my lady.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby call to order the inquest into the death of one Runa Desai, found dead in this very castle 7 days ago. For my first witness, I call upon the d'Albuquerque family maid, one Miss Catherine Partlet.
Oh, she's a timid thing, isn't she?
Quiet, please, Mary. I want to hear what she has to say.
Afternoon. Please pardon me nerves.
Calm yourself, child. You are not on trial here. Now, it is my understanding that of all the servants at Fordwych Castle, you are the most familiar with the murdered woman.
Well, I wouldn't say we was familiar-like, but I think we was friendly enough. At least at first.
When did you meet the deceased?
I met Miss Runa when she and her mistress first came to the castle, 3 months or so ago.
Can you describe the meeting?
Well, I remember I was just in the castle's main entryway and chatting with Captain d'Albuquerque when there was a knock at the door.
Hello, Kate.
Oh, Captain d'Albuquerque, you startled me.
Please, Kate, call me Jack.
You keep saying that, but it's not proper. You've been an officer and all.
I could order you to. It's just not right. A pretty girl like you calling me Captain.
Fine. If it'll make you happy, Jack it is.
That's better.
So what are you doing here, Jack?
Just visiting my aunts. Seeing the sights.
You're a naughty one, aren't you? Even serving in His Majesty's army can't knock the devil out of you. Now, who in the world could that be? Her ladyship isn't expecting anyone today.
I'll take care of whoever it is. May I help you?
We are here to see the Baroness.
Is she expecting you to?
No, but she will see us.
Unless you have an appointment, I'm afraid the answer is no.
And you are, sir?
Captain Jack d'Albuquerque.
Ah, Cousin Jack. Of course.
I'm sorry, but do we know one another, miss? I'm sure I would remember someone as pretty as you.
We have never met, but I have heard of you from my sister's letters.
Your sister?
Do you mean Miss Henriette? You're her sister!
Yes. Joan Mudaliar, Henriette's forgotten sister. Please inform Lady d'Albuquerque that her other niece and her companion have arrived safely from India.
Oh, of course. I'll go and fetch her for you. She'll be so excited to hear you've come to visit.
So, you're Henriette's infamous sister.
That's right, and this is my maid, Runa.
Hello, Captain.
A pleasure. Well, it's not every day you get to witness a family reunion. I do hope you intend to stay.
Yes, we intend to stay.
Oh, So you're a matched set, are you? Well then, I might just have to drop by the castle a bit more often. The place seems brighter already with you in it, Joan.
You flatter me.
It isn't flattery if it's true. And you are truly beautiful.
Captain.
Please, call me Jack.
Very well. Jack. I look forward to our becoming acquainted.
Hasn't Jack been looking for you? Such a clear day. I think I'll take the hounds out for a hunt if you'd like. Sister?
Hello, Henriette.
Joan, what are you doing here? It's been so many years.
And you, child, a grown woman now.
Runa?
Such a strong resemblance to your father.
I never thought I would see you again. Either of you.
And all this time, I have been waiting to hear from you, but not even one letter?
I was a child then.
But now a child no longer.
Yes, you were so eager to leave India behind. And I can see you have been enjoying your English life.
What are you doing here, Joan?
Father is dead, Henriette.
Yes. Yes, I heard.
There is nothing for us in India now. I've come to present myself to our aunt.
But you should have written. Given us some warning.
She did, but not to you, Henriette. She wrote to me.
Auntie, you shouldn't be about in your condition. You should be resting.
Resting be damned! I would not miss the opportunity to welcome another d'Albuquerque to the family seat, just as we welcomed you, Henriette, oh so many years ago.
You're very kind, Auntie, but my name is Mudaliar.
Your father may have been a Mudalia, but your mother was my sister, and that makes you family. Come closer, child. Let me look at you. Yes, I can see Margaret in your eyes, in your face. Welcome, my dear. Welcome home to Fordwych Castle.
Auntie, I'm not sure.
And who is this with you, Joan?
This is Runa Desai, my maid and companion.
An honor, Baroness Albuquerque.
Ah, yes, the nursemaid.
More than just that, Auntie. Without her, father's household would have fallen to pieces.
Of course. I'm grateful to you, Runa Desai, for rearing these girls after the loss of my sister.
It was my honor to do so, Lady Albuquerque.
Good. Very good. Kate?
Yes, Baroness?
The West Wing rooms are unoccupied and have an adjoining door besides. Prepare them for our guests so that they may rest from their journey. You will, of course, Joan, join me in my quarters for tea this evening?
Auntie?
Of course, Auntie, if that is what you wish.
We would be honored, Baroness. Besides, we have much business to discuss.
Is that so? Very well, then. Kate, make it tea for 3.
And that were it, really. I took them to their rooms and went about me business.
Miss Desai spoke of business to discuss with Lady d'Albuquerque. Do you know what this business was?
Goodness knows, you should ask the lady herself.
I have. Both she and her niece have refused to testify.
Terribly sorry to disappoint you all.
Henriette!
Very interesting, Mary. The Baroness could dispel the public gossip with a single word, yet she chooses to hold her tongue. I wonder why.
Miss Bartlett, I repeat my question. Do you know what business Joan and Runa had with Lady d'Albuquerque?
Lady? Miss?
All right, Kate. Tell the coroner what you know.
All right, Mum, if you say so. I don't know what the business was, but I got an inkling. You see, from the moment they came into the house, and begging your pardon, Mum, but it's true, fearsome quarrels between them sisters became a daily occurrence.
What were they arguing about?
there was talk of lawyers and proofs and marriage and birth certificates. Nothing I'd understand, mind you, but her ladyship and Miss Henriette would spend hours closeted in a room with that Mr. McKinley, the lawyer gent from London. After his lady's visits, my lady's eyes was always red and swollen like she'd been having a cry.
How often did Mr. McKinley visit the castle?
Oh, he came down to Fordwych 2 or 3 times. I always thought it strange that Runa, a plain servant like myself, would be in the room with the rest of them. Why, I remember this one time she, caught me at the keyhole.
If you are so confident, Joan, you need only show your proof to Mr. McKinley.
Not unless I have your proof and your promise you will honor my claims.
At it again, are they? No one else about. Jack can wait a bit for his firewood. A little peep through the keyhole never hurt no one.
Oh, sister, if you truly had proof, you wouldn't need Auntie's promise now, would you?
Auntie, this house is not big enough for both of us. Runa, where are you going?
Uh-oh.
What are you doing, girl? Are you spying?
No, of course not, Miss Runa. I'm to lay the fires, and I've come to see if her ladyship's fireplace needs a top-up.
Not now, Kate.
Auntie, this discussion is going nowhere. I'm off to find Jack.
Oh, of course. Since you aren't getting your way, you're off to bolster your pride with the one man you've managed to manipulate to your will.
We're done here. Come, Runa.
I will join you shortly, Miss Joan.
You will join? Fine. It would seem no one is listening to me today.
Shut the door, Henriette. I wish to speak to Mr. McKinley privately.
Yes, Auntie. Runa, why are you going along with this plot of my sister's?
Miss Joan, she is the only family I have left.
And what about me, Runa? Aren't I your family too? Or is it that you still hate the child who left you to come to Fordwych Castle?
No, my dear child, I could never hate you.
Then why are you trying to ruin me? If I am driven out of Fordwych, where else can I possibly go? I'm going riding for a bit. Clear my head.
Those lungs look heavy, Kate. Allow me to help you.
Oh, thank you. I know it's not my business, but for you to leave your home and come such a long way for your mistress, well, I hope it's worth the trouble is all.
It is for Miss Joan. That makes it worthwhile.
We all feel loyal to our mistresses, but begging your pardon, I don't think I've ever seen anyone as devoted as you.
I have known Miss Joan since I held her as an infant. She's a daughter to me. I love her. I would die for her.
Die? Well, pardon me for laughing, but you can't mean that now, can ya? Not really.
You think I joke about death? Look, girl, look at this.
Here now, what's that you've got in your dress?
You see these papers? These contain Miss Joan's fortune, the girl's future. I will guard these with my life, you hear me? With my life. And I will kill anyone who tries to take them from me. Even you, Kate. Even you.
She was more talkative with me back then, but just lately she became more silent-like. Ever since she showed me them papers and told me she'd kill me if I tried to take 'em. Never seen her so angry.
What was in the papers, Miss Bartlett?
I don't know, but I suspect that's what they was all arguing about. Runa sure thought they was important.
Did you mention the incident of the papers to anyone?
No, of course not. Well, except Miss Henriette, of course. She is my mistress, after all.
Henriette knew Runa carried the papers. That is interesting.
Oh, just look at Henriette, my lady. Just sitting there with Lady D'Albuquerque, paying no attention whatsoever. You'd think this inquest was a dull lecture for all the attention they're giving it. Such callousness.
The townsfolk would seem to agree with you, Mary, if their glares are any indication.
Order, please! Order! Thank you for your time, Miss Bartlett. You may step down.
Thank you. I hope I were helpful.
For my second witness, I call upon Captain Jack D'Albuquerque. Captain D'Albuquerque, what was your relationship with the deceased?
Wouldn't say I had any relationship with her, aside from her service to Joan Medalia.
And how would you characterize your relationship with Miss Mudaliar?
Well, a gentleman ought to be discreet.
Oh! What a cad!
Indeed, Mary. Still, even cads can have their uses.
No, Captain. It is my understanding that you were the first to discover the body.
It is not entirely accurate. It was Joan who first discovered poor Runa. I merely summoned the doctor.
Please, Captain, describe that morning.
Very well. I was visiting the castle, at my aunt's request, mind you. I was in the hall talking with Kate, as I often do, when Joan came running downstairs, hysterical, covered in blood. I went up to check her rooms, where I was met with a horrible sight. Poor Runa was lying across her bed with a handkerchief in her mouth, throat cut by a sharp blade. She was obviously dead.
Did you check her body?
No, but the doctor said that she'd been dead for some hours. There was nothing we could have done.
You are an experienced military man, are you not?
I'd like to think so.
In your experience, would this type of crime require great strength?
Well, no. I would think the cloth over her mouth suggests to me that she'd been knocked unconscious when it's done.
So it could have been a woman?
Yes. Yes, I suppose it could.
Thank you, Captain. You may step down. I now call Miss Joan Mudaliar.
When the young girl stepped forward, there was that awed hush which usually follows during a crucial act of a dramatic play. But Joan was calm and looked wonderfully pathetic in deep black, with obvious lines of sorrow traced on her young face.
State your name.
My name is Joan Clarissa Mudaliar. Until the day of my companion's death, I was a resident at Fordwych Castle. Since then, it has been made clear that I am no longer welcome, so I have taken up at a quiet little hostelry in the outskirts of town.
Let us establish your familial relation. You were born in Pondicherry, India, I believe?
Yes, I was born in Pondicherry.
And you are the youngest daughter of Margaret Mudaliar, sister to Lady D'Albuquerque?
Yes. What's more, I am her only legitimate child.
Order, we shall have order!
Did you hear that, my lady?
But legitimate could hardly be mistaken. Here at last must lie the clue to the poor woman's death.
Miss Mudaliar, that is an explosive claim. Have you any proof of this?
The papers Runa carried with her were my proof. My father had in his youth a secret marriage with an Indian woman named Kavya, Runa's elder sister. She gave my father no children, so they drifted apart. Subsequently, he fell in love with my mother and married her. Soon after, my sister Henriette was born.
But this Kavya, what happened to Kavya?
She died of a broken heart, but her death occurred 2 months after the birth of my sister.
Oh, so this is your desperate attempt, is it? A grand performance to convince the world of your claim?
Oh, Henriette, how can you be so cruel even now?
Oh, for God's sake! Joan, please don't do this.
Order! Thank you. Now, just so we are clear, your claim that Henriette is not the rightful heir to the d'Albuquerque title because your father's marriage was illegitimate at the time of her birth?
That is correct. My father truly believed that Kavya Desai had died during the cholera outbreak of 1881 and assumed that their marriage was thus annulled. He was very much shocked when he realized what a grievous wrong he had done our mother and sought a second marriage, a legal one this time, to make things right. Less than a year later, I was born, and my mother died in childbirth. I do not think my sister has ever forgiven me for that sin.
I'm very sorry for your loss, both of you.
Thank you.
These papers of which so much has been said, you entrusted them to Runa's possession?
She simply would not part with them. Runa carried them in the lining of her dress, and at night they were kept under her pillow. She would not even entrust them to that lawyer, Mr. McKinley.
And what did these papers consist of?
The marriage certificate of my father's first wife, and 2 sworn statements as to her death, 2 months after the birth of my sister, one by a well-known doctor in Pondicherry and the other by Runa herself, who held her dying sister in her arms. But the doctor is dead, and Runa has been murdered, and all the proofs are gone!
And where are the papers now?
After her death, I thought it my duty to place the papers in Mr. McKinley's charge. They were, after all, the key to my future. But though I carefully searched Runa's room, I could not find them anywhere. They were gone. Stolen. Whoever stole Runa from me also stole the papers.
You slept in the room adjacent to Runa's, did you not?
Yes, our rooms had an adjoining door.
Did you hear anything in the night? Any unaccustomed noise?
No. Runa locked her door at night with a key, but I'm sure I would have heard something. The murderer must have been quick and silent. Oh God, she was the only mother I can remember. How I wish she had listened to me and placed the papers in McKinley's charge. If she had, I might not have lost the woman who loved me best in all the world.
It was terrible to see this young girl proffering so awful an accusation against her own family. Can you imagine the reaction to her pathetic story? Coming over to England to make good her claim, and in one fell swoop losing her future when her principal witness was brutally murdered. The extraordinary inquest drew to a close, leaving in its wake only dark suspicion. The jury returned a verdict of willful murder committed by persons unknown. Even as we wondered who those persons might be, Lady d'Albuquerque rose and, leaning on her niece Henriette's arm, stoically walked out of the room.
The next morning the call came which my lady had been expecting. The chief had grown desperate to solve the Fordwych Castle murder and summoned Lady Molly to his office.
Lady Molly, thank you for coming.
I accept.
Excuse me.
Let us not waste time. You are under pressure to solve the brutal murder of Runa Desai at Fordwych Castle and need me to identify the murderer.
That's awfully presumptuous.
But true, yes?
All right, yes, it's true. The higher-ups are sending me telegrams upon the hour, and the daily papers are growing increasingly sarcastic. At my expense, mind you.
And the public more and more impatient.
It must be either the aunt or her heir. They're the only ones with motive. What's more, we discovered this.
A knife.
Found this morning on the golf links adjoining the castle. There can be no question that it had been used by the murderer, since it still bears traces of Runa's blood.
Now that is interesting. The papers reported that Henriette is known to frequent that golf course for her own recreation.
Quite correct. What's more, this Miss Henriette was even playing golf the morning of the murder, in the very field where the knife was discovered.
Perhaps you should arrest her.
You know we daren't charge a family like the D'Albuquerques, not without ironclad evidence. I left those two fools, Pegram and Elliot, in charge of the case, but even after a week they've only turned up is this knife. Otherwise, not a lead, not a suspect, nothing outside of what was presented at the inquest.
Yes, I saw them there.
You were at the inquest?
Of course.
But what? No, don't tell me. You knew I would call you in on the case.
Very well, I will not tell you.
Aye, but you are an infuriating woman.
I have carte blanche in the investigation, of course.
As always. But I want to be kept informed of your every move.
My dear Chief, do you know the meaning of carte blanche?
I don't speak French, Lady Molly. You know that.
Then I suggest you learn the meaning by the time I deliver you your murderer.
And when will that be?
Tomorrow evening, I expect. Au revoir.
Lady Molly and I arrived back at Fordwych by the 8 o'clock train, and we put up at the same hostelry which Joan Mudalia now occupied. I could not help but suspect this was not a coincidence. Over a hasty and, quite frankly, very bad supper, Lady Molly allowed me some insight into her plans.
I can see every detail of the murder, Mary, just as if I had been there. I know exactly where the Oddfellows went wrong and why they cannot get on with the case. But I must ask you a serious question, Mary.
My lady?
What I am about to do is so irregular that if I fail, I should probably be immediately dismissed from the force, and some of that disgrace is bound to stick to you. It is not too late, Mary. You may still draw back and leave me to act alone.
My lady, I cannot believe that you would even ask such a thing. You know I would never leave your side. I trust your marvellous intuition.
Mary, I knew I could rely on you.
What can I do, my lady?
Go to bed now.
My lady?
Please, Mary, I need some time alone to think.
In spite of my protest, my lady refused to answer any more questions, and I was forced to retire. The next morning, I awoke to see her graceful figure standing beside my bed at a very early hour. My lady? What time is it?
Too early for a sensible woman to be up, Mary. You stay in bed.
Too early. Where are you going?
Oh, to early mass at the church.
To mass at the church?
Don't repeat my words, Mary. It's silly and waste time. I go to mass first, and after I shall pay a visit to Fordwych Castle. You, Mary, must scrape up an acquaintance with Miss Joan Mudalia, who is staying here at this hotel. When I return, we shall have breakfast together.
What should I ask her?
Well, to join us for breakfast, of course.
And with that, she was gone. As always, I could but obey my lady's instructions to the letter.
An hour later, I rose and made my way down to the ground floor of the hotel where, by a stroke of luck, I spied Miss Joan Mudalia strolling through the hotel garden. I angled up to her to strike up a conversation, and while I may not quite have my lady's easy charm, I did manage to keep us occupied with small talk of a horticultural variety.
Oh, what lovely peonies!
Ah, is that what they are?
Oh, yes. I admit I am not a gardener, but I believe it is a rather popular variety.
I see. You seem to know your flowers, Miss...
Grenade. Mary Grenade.
Miss Grenade. You know, we don't have peonies where I come from.
And where is that?
India.
India? How exotic!
To you, perhaps, but to me it was simply home. I thought England could be my new home, though none of it is gone as I had planned.
Well, it's only natural, I think. Plans often go awry.
Not my plans, Mary.
Oh, my lady, you're back.
Quite right. I accomplished what needed doing and so sought you out. Ah, but this must be Miss Joan Mudalia.
I'm afraid you have me at a disadvantage, madam.
Lady Molly, a pleasure, I'm sure. Oh, and Mary, I'd like you to meet Captain Jack d'Albuquerque.
The pleasure is mine, Miss Grenard.
Jack, what are you doing here?
Popped back for a visit and was lucky enough to run into the charming Lady Molly here. I offered
Insisted.
to escort her back to the hotel.
And so he did.
But Captain's work is never done. I'd best nip up and say hello to Auntie, or she'll have my hide for breakfast.
Oh, Captain, please don't forget that favour I asked.
I would never disappoint a lady. Oh, and Joan, perhaps when I return we might have tea together. What do you say?
I'd like that. I'd like that very much.
That's settled then. Cheerio.
What an impetuous young man. Now, Miss Mudalia, you simply must join us in the coffee room upstairs. Mary, go up and find us a table, won't you?
Yes, my lady.
Oh, but I'm to have tea with Jack.
Nonsense. Jack is for later. Now is the time for feminine conversation. Don't you agree?
All right, Lady Molly. Feminine conversation it is.
Very good. Lead the way, won't you, Mary?
The room was empty as we sat down to table. I quivered with excitement, too excited to eat or speak, awaiting events. Lady Molly conversed with Miss Joan, asking her about her life in India. My lady's charms put her quite at ease, and soon enough Joan spoke freely.
Papa loved me dearly. I dare say I was even his favourite. Runa's too. At least I thought I was her favourite.
And when did you first come to know Runa?
She came to the house when my mother died. Without her sister, she had no family left, and I suppose my father took pity on her. She had charge of both me and Henriette, until the Baroness recalled Henriette to England. Runa was the only mother I ever knew, and the only family who would have me. I see that now.
And what are your future plans?
I can do nothing whilst Auntie is alive. After her death, if my sister does assume the title, then I shall turn to the court of public opinion and hope that somebody listens. Jack!
Ah, Captain d'Albuquerque, you've returned.
I have.
You found the papers, of course.
The papers? Jack! No!
Yes. I found them. They were right where you said they would be, Lady Molly. There's even blood on the top page.
Jack, I can explain.
Don't you say a word. Wait, Joan!
Oh, she's headed for the window!
Papa!
God in heaven.
Guilty has meted out her own punishment.
And it was she?
Yes, I suspected it from the first.
But why? Why would she kill her own servant?
Later, Mary. First we must see to Joan and find if there is a spark of life remaining within her. But alas, I fear the worst. How is Joan?
Her injuries are significant. The doctors do not give her much hope.
They say she might not survive the night.
See. Then it is imperative that I speak with her immediately.
You've done enough, Lady Molly. Leave Joan in peace.
My case is not complete. Can you, from one lady to another, permit me 5 minutes with your niece?
Very well. 5 minutes. No more.
Thank you. Miss Mudalia.
Oh, it's you. Lady Molly, was it?
Indeed. Miss Mudalia, we have little time.
I know. I can feel myself dying. I do not wish to leave this earth burdened with deceit.
Be aware, Miss Mudalia, that I know all. I know how you killed Runa, and what's more, I know why.
You have proof, then?
Of course I have proof. I have your papers. I do, however, have some questions as to 2 of the details.
Yes, that was quite a trick you pulled with Jack. How did you convince him to search for you?
Simple. I know the nature of men.
Of course. And how did you know where he should look?
I also know my own sex. I knew you would never destroy the papers, no matter how much they might damn you.
Yes. Looking back, I cannot believe I did not burn them. One dreams of something for so long, it is hard to let go.
Whose idea was the scheme with the papers?
My father. He hated Lady d'Albuquerque for cutting off his allowance after my mother's death, for stealing one of his daughters away. After his death, well, I admit I harbored my own feelings of hatred.
That night, how did you gain access to Runa's room?
Simple. I knocked. She answered.
At which point you killed her.
I did. I clamped a chloroform cloth over her mouth, lest she resist. I could see the disbelief in her eyes. I could hardly believe I was doing it myself. I don't think I really even believed it was true until she collapsed and I cut her throat.
Of course. Thank you.
Lady Molly.
Yes.
What was my mistake?
Besides keeping the papers that you took from Runa's corpse, it was simple. It was a key.
Runa's key. The one she used to lock the door.
And that key is why you are now dying in hospital, rather than walking the halls of Fordwych Castle. Goodbye, Miss Mudalia. We shall not meet again.
My lady! You've returned. How did the interview with Joan go?
It was both exhausting and illuminating. She still thinks she can restore her claim, the deluded fool. Go on, Mary. I can see you're bursting with questions.
Of course I am. Why, my lady? Why did she do it?
A simple reason. The papers, Mary. The papers poor Runa died for. The whole affair was a fraud from beginning to end. I mistrusted the papers' genuineness from the moment I heard that Runa would not allow that lawyer McKinley to have charge of them.
So Runa must have been in on the scheme as well.
Of course. Runa's part was the most important, since she was prepared to swear to the false date of her sister's death.
And without that statement, Joan had no leverage. But how did you divine this?
Quite simply, Mary. I attended Mass.
You gained insight from the sermon.
Don't be daft, Mary. I simply went there to introduce myself to Lady d'Albuquerque and gain her trust. You might not know this, Mary, but I can be quite charming when I want to be.
I had no idea.
After Mass, I escorted Lady d'Albuquerque and her niece back to Fordwych Castle, where I explained my position.
Welcome to Fordwych Castle, Lady Molly.
Thank you, Lady d'Albuquerque. You do me much honour.
If we are being honourable, perhaps you should drop the pretense.
Pretense? I don't know what you mean.
Don't be daft. Even here in Fordwych, we've heard of the infamous Lady Molly of Scotland Yard.
Is that Mary Grenard with you? I've read everything she's written.
I see. Mary and those damn stories.
I assume you're here to investigate the murder of Runa Desai.
I am.
A tragedy. What happened to her?
I had heard that you were at odds with Runa.
That's true. But I didn't want her dead. For heaven's sake, she cared for me as a child.
I believe you, but that's not what the public thinks.
The public can think what they want. It matters little to us.
Why did you refuse to testify at the inquest?
I was hoping for privacy for my family's affairs.
And what difference would it have made if we had? Besides, Auntie thought it best we avoid bringing attention to Joan's claim.
Then that foolish girl made it public anyway. Honestly, I don't know what Margaret was thinking when she married that damned Indian merchant.
Auntie, those are my parents you're speaking of.
Margaret was my sister before she was your mother, girl, and I tell you she was always more rash than wise. Dashing off into the unknown at every opportunity, never thinking about the consequences. I always knew she would bring shame upon the family. Just never imagined it would be this.
Have you seen Runa's papers?
Some. The marriage certificate, of course, the birth certificate for Henriette. But the rest? They were very reticent to share with Mr. McKinley unless they were granted assurances. Assurances I was unwilling to give.
What kind of assurances?
That I forgo Henriette's claim to the title and bestow it upon Joan. Can you imagine? It's Henriette whom I've raised, whom I've prepared to become the next Baroness. To suggest that I would allow some foreigner to claim the title at the 11th hour.
Auntie, she is no more a foreigner than I am.
You are an Englishwoman, Henriette, my elder niece and the rightful heir to the barony.
Lady d'Albuquerque, just who do you think killed Runa Desai?
I haven't the slightest idea. Perhaps she killed herself.
That seems rather improbable.
I actually spoke with Runa at length and came to know and admire her. Rarely have I met anyone so devoted to her mistress. I would like to think the admiration was mutual.
Might I see Runa's room, Lady d'Albuquerque?
Would be most irregular.
Oh, really, Auntie? Lady Molly might be able to clear up this mess. And the sooner we do so, the better. If you saw the scornful looks directed...
Those same scornful people will forget this whole affair if we let it pass quietly. No, I am afraid it's simply out of the question.
I see. In that case, I shan't trouble you any further.
Thank you, Lady Molly. I do hope we may meet again.
As do I, Lady d'Albuquerque. Good day to you.
Lady Molly.
Miss Henriette?
Runa's room is this way.
But the Baroness?
Will not be in charge of this household forever. I may not have the title yet, but I should think that I have some say in what we keep private or not. Runa loved me once, and I'd like to think she rediscovered that love here at the castle. If nothing else, she deserves justice. In here, please. Investigate as you see fit.
Thank you.
Not at all. After all, it would seem you are the only one interested in helping to clear my name. Once you've finished, I believe you know the way out.
Henriette left me alone in the room where Runa had slept and died. While searching there, I found this key.
But I thought the police searched Runa's rooms.
They did not know where to look.
What is the key for?
It fits the lock on the door, which led to Joan's bedroom. Remember that Joan had said Runa locked that door herself at night. The conclusion was obvious.
She was afraid.
Indeed, Mary. She was afraid of her mistress.
But why, my lady? Runa loved Joan, else she would not have followed her here.
Why, indeed. Who knows what passed between the two women, both of whom have come to so violent and terrible ends. But we shall return to the unfortunate Runa in a moment.
As you say, my lady.
With this discovery before me, I ventured on my big coup. I kept Joan talking in here whilst I sent Jack to her room with orders to break open the locks of a handbag. There. I told you that if I were wrong, I would probably be dismissed from the force, as I had no right for a search. But if Jack found the papers where I felt sure they would be, we could bring the murderer to justice.
What is actually in the papers, my lady?
Enough to cast doubt in the mind of Lady d'Albuquerque. The marriage certificate between Kavya Desai and Mr. Mudaliar. The birth certificates for Henriette and Joan. But perhaps the most significant document, a paper I'm not sure Joan even knew was there, was this.
A confession! Written by Runa herself!
Indeed. And I believe you'll find the contents quite illuminating. My name is Runa Desai, and this is my final confession.
I have been deceitful and lied to aid in the campaign by my mistress, Joan Mudaliar, to obtain the d'Albuquerque family fortune. At the time, I saw it as the justice. I raised Joan from infancy with her father, Mr. Mudaliar, and while we were happy in Pondicherry, we were also very poor. Mr. Mudaliar resented his wife's family, who, upon her death, no longer saw fit to support their distant child Joan, contenting themselves instead with raising her sister Henriette in England. His resentment turned to hatred, and I began to hate the Albuquerques too. We devised this wicked scheme to defraud Henriette and steal away both the wealth and title of Fordwych to bestow it upon Joan. I believed in the righteousness of our plot, that the Albuquerques were an evil English family. But when Joan and I came to England to implement our plan, I was reunited with Henriette after almost 15 years apart and came to know her again. Doubt crept into my heart. How could I cheat Henriette out of a prosperous life? How could I hurt the girl whose tears I once dried? I tried to convince Joan that we must abandon our deceit, but she would not hear of it. She believed to the depths of her soul that she had been robbed of what she was rightfully owed, and she was determined to take it back by the most hateful way possible. We argued. She screamed at me. She struck me for the first time in her life. I thought I knew that child as well as I know myself, but I do not now recognize the woman she has become, twisted by hatred and greed. I do not know what will happen, but should I come to a fell end, the truth must be known. My sister died from cholera in 1881, 3 years before Henriette was born. My claim that she was still alive after Henriette's birth was a falsehood, born of greed and of poverty. Henriette is the rightful heir to the Albuquerque title, and I feel ashamed to have wronged her. Let this document stand as both my testimony and my truth. I remain shamefully, Runa Desai.
Runa Desai.
Oh, killed by her own mistress. It's horrible, my lady, horrible.
After speaking with Miss Henriette, I see now the bond she shared with her old nursemaid, and the influence such a reunion had upon poor, loyal Runa. She came to England ready to die for her mistress, and in a strange way I suppose she did.
Joan died of her injuries that very night, and my lady's prophecy came true. The guilty had indeed meted out their own punishment. Lady d'Albuquerque sent to Lady Molly a cheque for £5,000, and I think you will agree that it was well earned. With her own deft hands, my dear lady lifted the veil which hung over the tragedy of Fordwych Castle, and the murder of the faithful woman called Runa was no longer a mystery.
The Fordwych Castle murder was adapted from the original Baroness Orczy tale by Jeremy Holstein and Elizabeth Salazar. The cast was as follows: Liz Salazar as Lady Molly, Catherine Bromberg as Mary Grenard, Rajita Menon as Joan, Rashi Verma as Henriette, Pooja Uzgankar as Runa, Laurie Ann Cohen as the Baroness, Philip Pierre-Louis as Captain Jack, Mayor Freed as the Coroner, Jess Conger Henry as Kate, and Chris Chiampa as the Chief. Foley was by Michael Lynn, with sound design by Jeremy Holstein. Our stage manager was Meg Wickham, and the entire production was under the direction of Jeremy Holstein. Thank you for joining us for the Post-Meridian Radio Players Summer of Mystery. We hope to see you again soon, in person, But for now, good night.